Hello, it's Miss Waterworth again. I hope you're all well and welcome back to another Year 5 and 6 English tutorial. Today we are going to be concluding our work on looking at using adverbials in writing. So let's just remind ourselves again what an adverbial is. So an adverbial is a word or a group of words that tell us more about a verb, the adjective, or even sometimes another adverb. Okay, there are 3 rules that we need to follow when we are looking at using adverbials in our writing. And the first thing that we need to remember is that they are part of a sentence and they cannot stand on their own. And there are lots of examples of this. So here, this one over here that I've written, with a warm smile, it doesn't make a whole sentence. What did she do with a warm smile? Okay, so it can't stand on its own as a sentence. It's part of something bigger. Okay, rule number 2 is one that confuses lots of students and lots of adults as well, is that adverbials can also be adverbs, prepositional phrases, or subordinate clauses. So someone might say that, oh, that's a prepositional phrase, and you might be thinking, that looks like an adverbial to me. You might both be right, because a lot of the time adverbials are also adverbs or prepositional phrases or subordinate clauses. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're having a bit of a debate with someone about it. And rule number 3 is that they are used in our writing to give us more information about where something happened, when something happened, how something happened, how often something happens, how much something happens, or why. Okay, and down here, I'm really sorry if you've watched the other 2 videos, because I am going to read these examples out again because I know that they're very small on the camera. So what I've tried to do is, for each of the questions that we've mentioned in rule 3, I've given you a few examples of adverbials that you might use in those cases. So for when, we might say soon, by the evening, immediately, or as soon as I can. For where, we might say outside, in the distance, everywhere she looked, or between the trees. For how, we might say angrily, with a warm smile, like a shooting star, without warning. If I want to explain how often it's done, I might say sometimes, occasionally, every day of her life, rarely. I might say for how much something happens, or how much something is something, I might say completely, totally, somewhat, barely. So these are the ones that are quite often used with adjectives. So I might say it was completely dark. Okay, then we've got why over here, and I've said here because of the rain, but remember that could be because of anything. As it was Monday, it could be as it was Tuesday, as it was her birthday. Due to his illness, remember it could be due to anything else. And then we've got so that he could flee. So there are some examples there. They're not the only ones by any means. They're a very small handful, but they're just a few to give you a flavour of what adverbials are. Now, we've talked about adverbials of time and adverbials of place in the previous 2 tutorials, but today we're going to be looking at what we call adverbials of manner, which are the ones which answer the question over here, the how question. How did that happen? How was that done? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take down this little bit of information to start us off, and we're going to look at some examples. Now, just as I've said on the other 2 tutorials, if you're looking at this video as a little bit of revision, and you're feeling quite confident now at using adverbials of manner, then feel free to pause the video here. You can look at the sentences that we've got here, and then you can have a go at adding your own adverbials of manner that would tell us more about how these things happened. Okay, if you're not, and you're looking at this is a little bit more new for you, then feel free to watch, and you can see the examples that I use to add on to these lines, to add my adverbials of manner, and then you can have a go when you're feeling a little bit more confident. Okay, so let's look at the first sentence that we're starting with. It said, she turned and left. Okay, now perfectly acceptable as a sentence on its own, but I want to give a little bit more information about how she turned and left, because she might be feeling sad, she might be feeling cross, she might be feeling really happy and satisfied about something. Okay, so she turned and left. Now in my one, I'm going to have her, she is a little bit cross, they've been maybe rowing in the room. Okay, and I'm going to add this adverbial here, and I'm going to say without another word. You could say without saying anything. Okay, now I'm putting my adverbial here at the beginning of my sentence, which means I've made it into a fronted adverbial. So I need to remember then to put my comma after it. Fronted adverbials are always followed by commas. So without another word, comma, she turned and left. I could have quite as easily put the word angrily. She turned and left. Sorrowfully, sadly, okay, silently. So adverbials can be lots of different things, and it can completely change the meaning of your sentence, because I could say satisfied, or feeling satisfied, or I could say with a smile on her face she turned and left, which would change the mood of the sentence completely. Let's have a look at the next one. It says he slammed the door. Now slamming already probably tells me that he's feeling quite angry or quite cross about something. So I'm going to go quite simply, remembering that adverbials can just be an adverb, a one word adverb. I'm going to say he slammed the door angrily. Okay, and my full stop's already at the end there. Because my adverbial's now at the end of my sentence, I don't need the comma to join it on to the main sentence. It can just flow straight into my adverbial. So he slammed the door angrily. Okay, so if you're feeling confident now that you've seen the two ways that we can do it, and you're feeling confident to have a go on your own, then feel free to pause the video now, come up with your own examples for these first two, and then carry on adding adverbials of manner to the next sentences. If not, carry on watching, have a look at some of the examples that I use until you're feeling confident to have a go yourself. Okay, so number 3 said the children laughed. How did they laugh? Okay, were they laughing uncomfortably because someone's made a bit of a awkward joke? Are they feeling, is it awkwardly? Okay, I'm going to say that the children laughed. Something hilarious has happened in the classroom. So I'm going to say that the children laughed uncontrollably. They couldn't stop themselves. Check that looks right. Yep, uncontrollably. And again, because my adverbial is at the end of my sentence, I don't need a comma or anything to join it onto my main sentence. It can just flow straight into my adverbial, and my full stop is already at the end. We're going back to having our adverbial at the beginning now, so we're going to need to remember our commas. It said she returned to school. Now, how did she return to school? Now, lots of you will have different opinions about how someone might return to school. So I might say, because I'm feeling a little bit lost without coming to school and seeing all of you guys every day. So I'm going to say, with a spring in her step, which means that she's feeling happy about it, she's feeling joyful about it, she's excited, with a spring in her step. And because it's a fronted adverbial now, I need to put my comma in. So with a spring in her step, she returned to school. Okay, some of you might have more somber approaches to returning to school, but remember, adverbials can be whatever you want them to be. That's why they can change a sentence completely, so the meaning is something completely different. The next one, they stared at the teacher. So I'm going to say, how did they stare at her or him? I'm going to say that they did it in shocked silence. And because it's fronted again, I need to remember my comma. So in shocked silence, they stared at the teacher. So something strange has happened. Maybe she's cross and they're not used to seeing her cross. My next one, it said he began to sing. How did he begin to sing? Was he tentative? Was he a little bit nervous? Or does he go into it feeling really confident? So I'm going to say he began to sing, and I'm going to do it with joy in his heart. You could quite as easily just say joyfully. With joy in his heart. And again, it's another fronted adverbial, 3 of them in a row. So I need to remember my comma afterwards. With joy in his heart, he began to sing. Next, I've got one in the middle here. So if you watched the previous video, when it's in the middle, sometimes we might need commas and sometimes we don't. It depends how integral it is, how important it is to the meaning of the whole sentence. So we'll have a look. It says, he slept knowing they were gone. Okay, so my adverbial is going to tell me a little bit more about how he slept. So it could just be an adverb, like he slept soundly, which means like peacefully, knowing they were gone. and that would not need any commas around it because it would just flow nicely in my sentence. I'm going to use a little bit of a simile. Sometimes similes can be adverbials, and I'm going to say he slept like a baby, knowing they were gone. Knowing they were gone. And like a baby is quite a common expression that you might use when you're saying that someone sleeps really well. And as most parents know, that is complete rubbish because babies don't tend to sleep very well at all. But he slept like a baby, knowing they were gone. It tends to mean that they slept very peacefully. Okay, then this last one we've got here, she lectured them. How did she lecture them? Okay, I'm going to say that she lectured them. It's coming at the end of my sentence, so I'm not going to need a comma. And I'm going to say she lectured them in a patronising tone. Okay, patronising just means when someone's talking down to you, when they are talking to you a little bit like you're a small child and you're thinking, I don't need you to talk to me like this, I'm quite capable of understanding. I've used that. You might use something much more simple. You might say she lectured them loudly, she lectured them continuously. Okay, so it could be a much simpler thing than what I've used there. Okay, so if you haven't already had a go, then have a go now at coming up with your own adverbials of manner that could slip into these lines here. If you've done that and you've watched the previous two videos, then you might want to see is with these sentences whether you can add in actually an adverbial of time on an adverb or an adverbial of place into some of these sentences as a second little challenge for yourself, seeing which one you think actually works best in the sentence. Okay, but thank you so much for watching. I hope that it has made things a little bit clearer for you. But for now, stay home and stay safe, and I will hopefully see you on the next tutorial.